anatomy. Chop my big chest, where the best is a philosophy. Drinking at lunch brings verbal skills like a sucker punch. Welcome to CMcB. Yeah, yeah, CMcB. Yeah, yeah, CMcB. Yeah, yeah, CMcB. Yeah, yeah,
I watch a lot of movies. If you are a big fan, you've probably watched on YouTube CMcB IMDb. And it's where I watch old movies. It's like 50% kung fu movies, 50% science fiction movies. And I just make Mystery Science Theater style jokes about them. If that's your thing, great. If it's not, I understand that's not like everybody's deal. But it shows just how much I watch movies. I watch lots and lots and lots of movies. I have a 2-hour train ride. So I watch a movie probably every single day, which is a very nice way to spend my time because on the train has become my media time. So I don't come home and actually watch TV or movies at home. It's almost always on the train, but that sheer volume means I'm always very satisfied with my media intake. But it does mean that watching that many movies means you inherently start to analyze that many movies. So that's a big thing for me, is seeing movies again and again and again, and then see how they change things and differences, and then you learn stuff about stuff in movies. I did a whole episode of CMcB on fake blood, how to make fake blood. In the original Dawn of the Dead, it was actually chocolate syrup. So when they were like eating the body, it was probably all chocolate syrupy over their face. It was a black and white movie, so it showed up really well. And delicious. Some of the fake blood was not edible, but when they do zombie movies, they want the fake blood to be edible. One of them used like a Pepto-Bismol as a base, which means those people had some probably interesting toilet experiences after eating the dead bodies as zombies in the movie they were in. I mean, it's the price of fame. I have spent a lot of time watching movies. And of course, all these sort of, I don't even know if they'd be cliches, but you learn stuff about science and the real world and movies and how they relate. And I'm getting to the point where it's like, now sometimes I see stuff and I'm like, I shouldn't really be doing that anymore. Like the people who make movies should know better than that. So I kind of put together a list of things that I kind of want to stop seeing in movies. If you've heard of the Bechdel test, which is you have two female characters talking to each other and they're not talking about the man, or they're not talking about a man in the movie. It's very hard for a lot of movies to pass the Bechdel test. I made the CMcB movie test, and it was, if your country has nationalized healthcare, would this story happen? Because I was looking at a lot of movies where a relative got cancer and we didn't have any money and we're going to lose the ranch, so we have to go rob a bank to get enough money to save the ranch, or some sort of convoluted thing like that. Whereas if you had national healthcare, none of that would happen, so this movie wouldn't exist. So that was a different kind of test for essentially, is this movie super American, or have the singular American ideal of what the world is like? Because in most other countries, this situation would not occur in the first place. A lot of ranches came up. I do remember that. But these are more small things that I think overall we forgive, but I think it might just be time for movie makers to be like, it's time for us to just like, let's do this properly from now on, or find some other solution, or be more creative in the way we handle things so that this sort of scientific reality, the one that pissed me off the most. It was like the last Star Wars movie that came out that I saw in theaters. It's the one where the rebels are just flying away and then the Empire's just chasing them in space. They were shooting lasers and the lasers were arcing in space. And it was setting me off so much because in space, you do not need to arc anything. Like there's no gravity to fight against. You don't need to shoot up and down like a mortar because there's no gravity in space. Unless you're close to a planet, but then it wouldn't necessarily arc up and down. You might have to shoot it out, and so it curves back inwards and hits the target. They were shooting at the ships ahead of them, and they were arcing up and then going down and then just missing. Like they were boats, but they're not boats because they're in space. And in the movie, it took me out of the movie. The Wilhelm scream also takes me out of movies now. I learned it as a kid, and then the first few times I heard it, I thought, oh, that's cool. I'm in kind of like this private movie joke that if you know kind of thing. And now when I hear it, it actually will take me out of the movie in that moment. So you could do it in like light action movies or fun movies and stuff. But if you're doing a serious movie, never use the Wilhelm scream. That'll actually ruin the movie for me. It'll take me out of your movie completely. I'm essentially adding to this list of things that now when I hear or see them, it sort of takes me out of the movie. And then I thought, you could turn this into a drinking game. So you could have, every time make a list of this, and every time one of these things happens, you have to take a drink. Or you'd have to watch a bunch of movies. Most of this stuff only happens once per movie, or you just have one really big drink. You have to chug a drink. So you'd be there drinking with your friends, but if the thing happens, the last person to shout it out has to jug something. Has to jug. I've been talking for 40 minutes straight. I got to get... Yeah, I'm going to get a drink of water, and then I come back and continue. Just give me a second. See, I was trying to organize this into a drinking game. I've actually done a couple of drinking games over my time podcasting. Most of them had to do with Steven Seagal. I think I had 2 Steven Seagal drinking games, but I've made some other drinking games. I'll see if I can make them available somewhere. It's easier for people to access. But these are some of the things. I don't know if they're cliches yet, but they should be if they're not. And movie makers should stop doing them. So my first one, and it was a guy walks into a room and he starts dousing the room in gasoline. And then he stops and he starts... winded from running up the stairs because I didn't want to be right back for too long. So the initial one of these was I was watching a movie and a guy was dousing a room in gasoline and there's someone laying on the floor and he's going to set the room on fire and that person's going to burn to death in the fire. And then the person they're sort of like hurt. They're laying on the ground. They can't get up anymore. And the guy starts to do a little monologue about essentially how evil he is. And then he flips the lighter. Now, in reality, the whole time he's been talking, all that gasoline has been building up as fumes within the room. So as soon as he flicks that lighter, the whole place goes up. There's no question about it. If he's standing too close to the place when he flips the lighter, that whole place goes up. Gasoline, fumes are just as flammable as gasoline. I learned this one by watching these guys. They had this giant pyre and they were going to set it up on fire. They wanted to make a giant bonfire, and this guy was pouring gasoline all around it. And then as he went to throw the match in, before he even got to throw the match, it exploded because all the gasoline he'd been pouring on had been accumulating as fumes as this cloud around him. That cloud went up, and then the inside of the pyre exploded. So that's when I learned, yes, you can't be standing close to something you've just doused in gasoline. So when they do the gasoline and then they make a trail away from the building or whatever, that makes more sense. I don't know how well that works in reality, but it would actually make most sense if you just threw something into the room from a distance. So you are no longer allowed to douse a room in gasoline and then light a Zippo or light a match and then not have the whole thing just explode in your face. This is relative. So someone is running away from something that's about to explode. Or, I don't know, it seems to be on boats a lot. I guess you get, it explodes and then you like fall into the water. The explosion throws them. Maybe they're unconscious for a few seconds, but basically everyone goes, whoo, that was scary, or that was tough, or that was fun, some sort of, pithy statement. And then they're fine. Now, what I learned was that the thing that throws your body into the air is a shock wave. And it's a massive change in air pressure. And this is the problem with having lungs as a human being, that the massive change in air pressure outside your body versus inside your body means that a blast wave is actually going to collapse your lungs and kill you. So every time you see a movie, this might ruin movies for you. You may want to stop right now if you actually want to enjoy movies for the rest of your life. If an explosion is powerful enough to throw your body any sort of distance, then that is probably crushing your lungs in the process, especially the massive explosions we see in movies most of the time. So if you are in a room and there's an explosion and you duck into a hallway and then the big fireball goes past you and you go, oh, because I've seen that in movies as well. That also, again, the air pressure alone will be enough to kill you. So that's not acceptable anymore. You can't have a body thrown. You can't just dodge to the side of an explosion. You can't have a small barrier that you hide behind and then the fire goes over top. And it looks very dramatic on screen, but it doesn't hurt you at all. You just go, whew, almost got exploded, because the fire isn't actually the thing that's doing most of the damage in an explosion. It's actually the pressure, the sound wave, the shock wave, all this sort of pressures in this incredibly violent way. That's what's going to be doing the damage to the stuff around you and your body itself. It's the same. I actually saw a movie not too long ago and they jumped behind a bar in a bar where a bomb exploded in the middle of a bar. Now, they're doing okay, but that bar better be really, really reinforced. Like if it's just a piece of wood, and again, bars are not particularly thick, I assume it would actually kill you as well. Getting shot. Now, we all love people getting shot. I actually do. Let's see, this is the problem. Because I enjoy the movies where the hero gets beat down and then gets up and fights through. And in reality, like his body's broken, but he's, so his spirit is so strong. It's mostly like fighting movies and kung fu movies and stuff. I love the guy who gets back up. It's actually, to me, the biggest appeal of Spider-Man as a character, because quite often in Spider-Man comics and stories, Spider-Man gets his ass kicked. And then his sort of resilience of spirit is what carries him through. Now, I had a similar experience, only I had the realistic one, where I was in a judo competition and the guy pulled my fingers back and broke 2 of my fingers. And, I watched too many movies. So I was like, tape it up. I'm going back in. And of course, my resilience of spirit is going to take me to a place where I now go back in and then win with my special move. The reality is, in a competition, if you have 2 broken fingers and a big part of the game is grabbing each other like judo, you can't do that with one hand and you lose. And I lost real fast and then I started to cry. And this was like not crying because I lost a fight. This was crying because this was the end of my judo career. Like, this was the realization that I had been defeated for the last very real time in my life. Because my hand's going to have to heal. By the time it heals, everyone who's sort of in my group is going to have passed on beyond me. All that kind of washed over me in one moment, and it was very sad. It's funny now because I can see it in terms of what would happen in the movie and what happened in real life. Because in the movie, I would have not used my hurt hand and then done something really good and then just used foot techniques or something and beat him that way and been the champion of the world. In reality, 10 seconds later, I was on my ass. So you get shot in the shoulder. The shoulder has become the default for this is not a fatal wound. So it goes in, maybe it's still in there and they want to do a dramatic scene where they took the bullet out. Maybe it's a through and through and it's really clean and they just have to stitch it up. I'm pretty sure any bullet wound is going to stop you from doing much for the rest of that day. Like, after a judo competition or a judo practice where I do well, I need to come home and take a nap. And let's just say I'm not injured. That's just like from what I've just put my body through that day. I need to go home, lay down, maybe have a cold bath. I'm not doing anything else the next day with any sort of vigor. These guys, they get shot, they sew it up and they go back out and they perform at 100% ability. I'm a little tired of that. Or this could work for stabs as well. Like, you get stabbed. I've never been stabbed, but I'm assuming after you stab, you just kind of like don't do as well at anything. Like, there are people who get like hurt, stabbed, or shot, and maybe they don't notice. But then they should continue on not noticing and then just drop from blood loss. I think that actually would be an interesting thing to do in a couple of movies. Like, during the middle of an action scene, a guy just drops. Then you realize he got shot and they didn't deal with it fast enough. The volume of bullets is pretty significant. Like, getting shot multiple times. I'm sorry, I can't see that ever again. It's always dumb action movies, so I guess I'm more forgiving because I'm not expecting them to be really realistic. But if we're going to talk about realism in movies where they're shooting guns, it's the sheer volume of ammunition they would have to bring with them. Like, there was a guy who calculated, it was a John Wick, or it was probably before that, so maybe a Matrix movie. For them to shoot the sheer volume of bullets they're shooting in those action scenes, they would need a guy behind him with like a wheelbarrow full of ammunition to help him reload constantly, because they're just like going through these machine gun clips in seconds and they're reloading. But where are those reloads coming from? That, of course, again, being the Matrix, it's kind of got like a magic element to it. So I guess it's pretty easy to forgive in that case. Like, you could just have in the Matrix like, you just have to do like a video game where you unload and reload and it's fine. It's just full because it's the Matrix. It's not real. But that would mean the real parts of like the bits filmed outside the Matrix have to be even like hyper realistic then. They have to follow like super rules and actually have guys with barrels of ammunition. I think they did that in the third movie. They had one where it was mechs and the guy was coming up and he was basically shoving bullets up to reload those things. So I guess the Matrix did a good job. We'll give some credit to the Matrix. Something that bothers me just personally, and this comes from being not a rich dude at any point in my life, is when they have guns and it's empty and they just throw it away. I'm like, dude, that's expensive. Don't throw that away. It's just wasteful. When you defeat an enemy, I absolutely believe you should pick up his gun, use it until it's dry, and then continue on with your own gun. Maybe throw his gun away because it's empty and you don't have his refills. But I think at the end of the day, guns cost money, and we should be a little bit more fiscally responsible. Maybe there's an environmental element is there as well. Oh, and a very, very small side note, just racking shotguns unnecessarily on a regular basis, like, oh yeah, like it's cool. Racking a shotgun is one of the coolest things you can do, but I think it's just, yeah, it's unnecessary most of the time. Still talking about gunfights. Gunfights are a big part of a lot of movies, like suspense movies, drama. Lots of movies have gunfights in them because guns are very exciting. Hiding behind a couch or a car door during a gunfight. I don't want to see that ever again. Or I don't want to see it and have it be successful. So if you hide behind a couch, technically they can't see you, but if they do that thing where they shoot, they shoot the couch is not providing you with any sort of defensive mechanism. It's just hiding your position. Car door, a small gun bullet is going to go through a car door fairly easily. The only thing you can really hide behind in a car would be like the engine block. Maybe the wheels would be strong enough. But still, like, again, if you're hiding on one side of the car behind the wheel, the bullet would have to go through the car, maybe through the wheel as well. I could see that doing something still. Big gun probably still doesn't work. The engine block is the only thing that is substantive enough to stop it. Now we're getting onto electric cars. I don't know enough about the structure of an electric car. I know most electric cars, they put like a panel of batteries on the bottom, and each wheel has like a little engine. That's an interesting question that I didn't think about until I just got here right now. Because I'm thinking movies where it's like a big gas engine car. That doesn't exist anymore. So when they have the scene where the car is going towards the bad guys and everyone's shooting at the car, essentially it's the engine block that's technically supposed to be stopping all those bullets. The engine block doesn't exist anymore in a modern car in a real way. Ooh, I think I found a new problem just by talking through these old problems. We're going to have to revamp gunfights for electric cars. We could blow them up way more dramatically now because we could have the batteries set off, just like the Samsung phones. The bottom of the car like gets that like film that goes and expands and then the whole car like lifts up and then explodes. It would give you a second to run away, and the explosion wouldn't be violent enough to throw your body, so you'd actually be able to survive that. I think I'm solving my own problems by talking through my problems with movies. Electric cars actually deal with some of the problems I'm talking about. That's neat. Okay, sorry, back on track, back on my notes. Hiding behind a couch, if they shoot through the couch, you should get hit. I mean, there is this very, very small chance that your body is not in the place they're aiming at because they can't see your body, but realistically speaking, they're going to shoot a couple times and then they're going to get you. I never want to see someone run down a hallway away from enemies, and the enemies have machine guns of some sort or a Gatling gun or something, and they shoot down the hallway and don't hit the person. It's just not even that it's like dumb. It's statistically impossible. Like, because it's essentially a tube and you're running down the tube and they're shooting down the tube as well, they have to hit you. So you have to do something else. You have to like duck into a doorway. You have to have something happen. If you are running down a straight hallway and people are shooting straight down the hallway, they got to kill you. Like, that has to be it from now on. I can't ever see someone run down a hallway away from gunfire again and survive. That makes no sense, and it's really, really annoying to me now. This should relate to the shoulder wound rule as well, because if I'm running down a hallway and people are shooting, they're going to hit me. Therefore, I should probably hit the ground pretty hard. Talking about hitting the ground pretty hard. So, John Wick. I am willing to accept the magic bulletproof suits. I think it's cool. They all get to wear a nice suit, and then they can hold up the jacket, and that's bulletproof. But the thing that pissed me off in that is that the bullets then also lose all impact. So I have my bulletproof suit on. It's stopping the bullets from entering my body, but the bullet is still hitting my body. If you watch the John Wick movies, they get shot, and those magic bulletproof suits just stop the bullets, and they don't seem to have any impact on the receiver at all. I guess the victim, I don't know. That really started to bug me, because it would be actually really cool as if I'm wearing the magic bulletproof suit and then my opponent shoots me. It knocks me down. It hurts. I get big bruises. It like wins me. It like is basically like being punched from a distance. You've now turned a gunfight into a fist fight in a weird way, as long as you don't hit the face because their faces aren't covered. They did a couple where they held up the jacket in front of their head and then shot around it and stuff. But then this is still loose material. This material, yeah, okay, so it's stopping the bullet, but then it seems to be like deflecting the bullet or have some magic power where it's almost like a Star Trek shield that's stopping the bullet. That part went a little too far for me. I actually think they could have incorporated physical results of getting shot, not killed, but getting shot. And like it knocks you down, it hurts you, it like dislocates your shoulder if you get shot enough. It causes you enough pain that you're winded, you can't breathe. And then you have to fight through that. You have a very, very interesting scene going on because you can shoot a guy and then he's like, oh God, my side, I can't breathe anymore. And then you have a chance to escape. They shoot you and they knock you down. Now I have to struggle to get up and escape again. It should absolutely, at a minimum, knock you off balance. Like if I'm running and then I'm wearing my magic bulletproof suit and then someone shoots me, it should knock me to the side. It should knock me over. It should make me trip. Something like that should happen because I'm still being hit with something at speed. Since we're talking about running, these all vaguely relate to each other, which is interesting. I didn't do that on purpose. Doing any sort of parkour without warming up first. Parkour with no injuries, no ankle twists, no stretched muscles. Like I have done workouts where mid-workout, I'd warmed up properly and still pulled a muscle. I would like to see some parkour guys just kind of like hit a ground and just lay there. Just be like, my ankle, my back, my shoulder, my something. Parkour is one of those things. I get, again, you're doing it to be acrobatic and cool. Let's throw just a soissons of reality in there and just have someone just every now and then twist an ankle. It would actually make it a little bit more high tension for me, knowing that in this reality, they can actually get hurt. Because once they start doing parkour, again, their sort of magical inability to have injuries sort of pisses me off after a while. I think this might be me getting old because I can't do those things even if I do warm up. So it's not fair that you can do it in the movie. Now we're getting into some pretty clear ones. Stopped hearts being restarted with defibrillators. That's not how defibrillators work. They get your rhythm back on track. They do not restart something that has stopped. So once your heart stops, unless you're using magic or something else, you're dead. Like that's just the way it goes. Something I learned from, was it the locksmith lawyer? It was on TikTok or YouTube. It's the guy who uses very simple tools to pick locks and he picks them really super fast. He actually will hit some locks with another lock, and if you hit it in the right spot, it just unlocks. He did an experiment where he was shooting a gun at a lock like they do in a movie, and it just deformed the lock. It actually made it impossible. It wouldn't unlock anymore, essentially was what would happen. And you couldn't hit it, like you couldn't hit the bar. I'm thinking one of those classic locks was just a square with a little rounded bar on top. If you hit the bar, it would deform the bar but not actually break it. If you hit the actual body of it, it would actually just lock into place and never open. You've actually made it harder to break that way. So they should start using the locksmith lawyer lock picking techniques in the future. So you run up and you just hit it with something and then it opens. But shooting it is actually a really bad idea. It actually would make it harder to open in the long run. A chloroform, I haven't seen chloroform in a long time. So I guess that one's pretty forgivable. Chloroform, they used to put it over someone's face and they would just like instantly fall asleep. Chloroform in reality takes about 5 to 10 minutes to work. And it depends on how big your body is. So I'm 200 pounds, 6 foot. You're putting chloroform on me. It's going to take, let's say, 7 minutes before I go under. And that's if I'm breathing deeply while you hold that thing over my face, which I'm not going to do because I'm going to be very annoyed that you've just stuck something on my face. Because first question is going to be, have you washed this cloth? Like, is this a clean cloth covered in chloroform? That's what I would want to know. And then if it's not, now the fight is on. It would take a very large volume and a minimum of 5 minutes to actually take effect. So I'm saying, again, we want creative solutions to these problems. In this case, what you should do is just create a new chemical. So it's not chloroform, it's chloroform 2.0, it's a new chloroform, it's Chloromax, whatever, just so that it does go on the person's face, it's instantaneous. The problem is if it's something that's instantaneous and I'm carrying it around, I'm probably breathing in those fumes as well. You got to be careful about that. I don't want to see someone carrying something that knocks you unconscious instantly and they're just like have it in their hand and they're breathing it and they have no problem. Every new thing you create also might create new problems. You have to think about it all the way through. The pulling out a grenade pin with your teeth, I actually haven't seen that in years and years and years. I think that was like a really old trope. It's very obviously not something that comes out easily. They don't want grenade pins to just pop out simply. So a real grenade, apparently, if you put it in your teeth and you pulled, your teeth would come out before the pin does. So it takes a great amount of force. And I thought actually it'd be great if you came up with more creative ways to pull the pin. So the teeth looked cool. I'm okay with that. But realistically speaking, you can only do that once or twice before everyone's like, yeah, okay, we get it. It's kind of silly. But hooking it on something and pulling and then throwing the grenade, racking your gun with the grenade pin to pull it out and then throwing the grenade and then shooting. I could come up with 3 or 4 that don't require unrealistic scenarios that could still look cool. Like, I don't want things to not look cool anymore. I just want them to look cool in a new and more realistic way. I want them to take actual physics into account when they're making their cool action scenes. I think that would actually be more visceral and more exciting for most people. Because it's almost like you wouldn't know it was real, but deep down inside you would kind of know this was more realistic. Like, you can kind of feel when something is more realistic than something else. And the last one, this kind of happens in John Wick as well. Silencers. Silencers dampen sound. They don't silence. I guess you could come up with magic new silencer that does actually make the sound. But yeah, if I'm in a room and you assassinate someone in the room next to me with a silencer on, I'm still going to hear it. So I'm going to know what's going on. So I'd be okay with that. Like, you assassinate someone, they're in their bed, someone else is downstairs. They would hear the gudum. It wouldn't be like the people next door might not hear it, but me downstairs, I would hear it. And then I come up and then we can have our action scene. And then you're using a silencer appropriately. I saw a guy on YouTube and he was shooting a silencer indoors. Already a lot of questions going on there. But he was like, you could see like there was the smoke, the big cloud of smoke. So you'd be able to smell it even if you hadn't heard it. There was a lot of noise and there was a lot of sort of like almost blast came off it. Like it shook the room around it because he was in a hallway shooting into a room. Yeah, I think we could ease off the silencers a little bit and that would actually make it, again, more exciting because, okay, we've not alerted maybe the whole compound of terrorists, but we've alerted the terrorists in the next couple of rooms and we got to deal with them quickly enough before they raise the alarm. Now I've added another layer of tension to the situation. I am thinking, is there a way to turn this into a drinking game? Because I think every one of these individually only happens once or twice in a movie anyways. Like even if you were in the movie scenario, it wouldn't be enough to be a drinking game on its own. But I am trying to come up with a way to make this into maybe a bingo card. We make a bingo card of all those things. And then as you watch the next 5 or 6 movies, the ones that come up, you check off and whoever gets bingo, they get a prize in your little friend group. They are the coolest movie watcher ever. Or you could just have this list. And then when one of these things happen, if you don't call it out, you have to chug something that probably is too much for you to drink. You shouldn't drink it. I don't know how to end that. Fuck. It was a good idea. Just, I don't want to encourage like binge drinking. Drink responsibly, make movies responsibly.
Enter the mind of the academy. Chop my big chest where the best is a philosophy. Drinking at lunch brings verbal skills like a sucker punch. Welcome to CMcB. CMcB, CMcB, CMcB,